You've tuned in to the Bellingham podcast for the week of August 8th, 2021. This is episode 197. From that, is that Overcast? City by the Salish Sea, I'm AJ Barcay.
And straight out of 98226, I am Chris Powell. On this episode, AJ and I are wrapping up the 6-part series about getting out of your house and getting back into Bellingham. Here's the scenario, ladies and gentlemen. You're in town on business, attending a conference, or are visiting family friends, and you've heard lots of great things about the city by the Salish Sea, and you've listened to all of AJ and Chris's previous episodes about where to go, what to eat, what to drink, and what to do, and you still want more. Now what? Well, here we go again. This is the Bellingham Podcast.
In a 6-part, 6-time championship. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing just fine, AJ. How about yourself?
Doing good, dude. This is nice. I'm not saying that the drought's over, but hey, this moisture in the air. I can't see blue sky for once.
Yeah, the view is a little obscured right now, not from any kind of smoke or other obscurities, but yeah, we got a little bit of precipitation in the air. AJ, before we begin on a little bit of TikTok for other places that need to be mentioned for our listeners to check out because we approve of them, we're going to roll in quality assurance and the TikTok all in one.
Of course.
I want to make mention of a couple things that have happened recently that I just want to make mention because I'm co-host, and by cracky, I'm going to use my voice. So last week, well, let me back up. For the bulk of my youth growing up, in a little town called Sequim or Squim, Washington. On Saturday afternoons, I may have mentioned this a couple times on previous episodes, but I would go over to my grandpa's mobile home that was on our acre of land, and I would watch from 12 p.m. to 5:05 p.m. 5 hours of wrestling, pro wrestling on TV. And it was a wonderful time. I got to hang out with my grandpa and watch pro wrestling in the 80s. And from 3:05 Pacific time to 5:05 Pacific time, Superstation WTBS in Atlanta had World Championship Wrestling from the National Wrestling Alliance before it became WCW and before it became what it is today. That being said, for a good amount of the late 80s, I watched a heel, meaning bad guy, tag team called the Midnight Express, managed by Jim Cornette. Back when I was a ute, I didn't like them. I thought Jim Cornette was a loudmouth and he never shut up, and he was a rabble-rouser.
All true.
Yes, and the Midnight Express consisted of Loverboy Dennis Condrey and beautiful Bobby Eaton, and later years Sweet Stan Lane. Beautiful Bobby Eaton was one of the coolest wrestlers that I could watch because one of his moves was an off-the-top rope leg drop. Now, and you think Hulk Hogan's leg drop off the ropes was something? Come off about 10 feet in the air.
Yeah.
As you're landing on your opponent, and no, by the way, they don't try to injure their opponents. They're taking care of them. And this is a professional who, when he landed, it did not hurt his opponent that bad, but it looked, oh my gosh, that looked like it hurt.
It's a show.
This past week, Mr. Beautiful Bobby Eaton passed away at the age of 62, and I'm an unofficial member of the Cult of Cornette, meaning I am a fan of the Jim Cornette podcasts that you hear out there. I'm a fan of old-time wrestling, at least from the 80s and early 90s-ish. But sad day, sad time, and I just wanted to make mention of a really cool wrestler from my life growing up, and how much I enjoyed seeing, rooting against them.
Yeah.
But from what I heard, and here's the thing, bad guys may not necessarily be like that in real life. There were so many tweets in the Twitterville. Even though I don't have Twitter, I heard about it.
Oh, yeah.
So many wrestlers would say that in the locker room and outside of the wrestling ring, Bobby Eaton was one of the nicest, sweetest, gentlest, coolest guys you'd ever want to know. So, condolences to the Eaton family. Little known fact for those of you who are real old-time wrestling fans, he was married to superstar Bill Dundee's daughter, Donna. Yeah. So keeping it in the wrestling family. Second thing that I want to mention, a couple years ago, I made mention of a bassist who passed away for the band called Motorhead. His name's Lemmy. Ian Kilmister, also known as Lemmy. Fun fact, he often asked his friends, Lemmy a five for some smokes and a beer, and so the nickname Lemmy came into to play. He passed away a couple years ago. He was one of my influences, not from his lifestyle as a rock star, mind you, but just from the bombastic bass that he played in for 30 plus, maybe 40 years in Motorhead. Recently, one of my other major influences for playing bass guitar passed away. His name was Dusty Hill, and he was with ZZ Top for about 50 darn years, and I was really sad about that. The one thing about Dusty Hill, who's like a second vocalist, a second guitarist based on the distortion he put in his bass sound, because Billy Gibbons is, a prime majesty of blues guitar from a rock standpoint. Dusty had this undercurrent of groove that could not be stopped, and it was just so eager. I learned how to play ZZ Top songs when I first learned how to play guitar, and the bass was always right there, and it was easy for me to do that. One of the things that helped me out in my bass playing, when I would be playing live, I didn't know how to really position my bass on the strap, and I would, if you can picture shrugging your shoulders, I was shrugging my right shoulder playing my bass for about 2 hours, and I would have consistent trapezius sore neck muscles as a result, because I'm kind of intense and I'm clenching when I'm playing bass because I'm nervous, blah, blah, blah. I'm watching Dusty Hill live in 1980 in this Live in Germany video that I had acquired, and for some reason his right arm was fully outstretched, like not shrugging. And I'm looking at him play, and he's doing the same kind of 16th notes that I'm doing playing a song. I'm like, well, what if I lowered my bass, not like a Blink 182 punk rock star?
Thank you.
But what if I just lowered my bass and where I was able to fully outstretch my arm? And son of a gun, I did not have any of those neck muscle problems. And so that became how I roll. It's not the correct posture according to professional bassists who've had the instruction and training, but you know what? They're not
works for you.
It works for me, and they're not taking care of my neck. So very sad about us losing Dusty Hill, and I hope that everyone gets a chance to listen to not just LaGrange and Sharptress. Man, go into some deep cuts. Go into some of these obscure songs like $10 Man, and go into like Blue Jean Blues, and go into a song. Oh, I'm picking one from random Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers. If you want a groove that'll nod your head and wiggle your gluteus, that'll work. That's one of the songs that got me going when I was in high school. Anyway, wanted to make mention of that, and thanks for your time for letting me blab about a couple heroes of mine, I'd say, who have passed away.
Help formed the sultry baritone voice that you hear,
so to speak. I guess that, and I didn't want my voice to crack when I was a teenager, so I made sure that I had a deeper voice. Moving on. Let's talk about some other areas in Bellingham that we really enjoy, we've been to, we approve of, that we want to make mention, since we've covered a whole lot of bases in giving you ideas about what to do and where to go around town. One of the things that we made mention of in a previous episode in this miniseries is about to get some Bellingham souvenirs. In addition to finding some cool hats of Bellingham, if you want some mesh type trucker hats with perhaps the Bellingham on it. In addition to that, there's a tremendous amount of healthy food that we have available in this place. The community oh, that was a good one. Whoops. Community FOOP? No, the community co-op in Bellingham. There's one downtown and there's one over in the Cordata area off of Meridian. 2 locations to serve your healthy food choice needs. But they also have some pretty cool souvenirs to take home with you of your time in Bellingham. So that was my tick. AJ, talk.
So for me, I'm going to go and it's in the same vein as food, and it's outside of Bellingham. It's between us and Nooksack. And what I'm going to tell you is, of course, Captain Get Out approved. You're going to head on 542 heading towards Mount Baker. But, dear listener, you're going to come up to a roundabout once you enter the
Nugent's Corner.
Nugent's Corner. Thank you. And
no relation to Ted Nugent, by the way.
Wrong. Yep. No, not that. No.
A different Nugent. Yes, exactly.
If you're heading out towards Baker, if you're heading east, you'll notice that there is a you-pick berry farm called Shumways. Now, Shumways, they're the goods. My son and our family have gone out there to pick for several seasons. But what's great is very small farm, honor code. Basically, like you go out, they provide a bucket. You go out into the fields and you pick whatever berries you want. They have berries like raspberries of if you think you like raspberry, even if you don't think you like raspberry, go out there and pick some because they have different varietals. Like they have a Squamish raspberry. They have different varietals of blackberry, blueberry. And you pay by the weight. There's a little stand right there, and you can put in cashola, or they also accept digital. So you can do, I think, PayPal or Venmo. I can't remember which one.
That's cool.
I usually bring cashola.
There you go.
But it's a great experience, and you don't get much more terroir than picking right straight from the field and putting it into your 5-year-old's hands and sticky hands and mouth. So
continuing the healthy food theme with some berries for yourself.
Yes.
I like it. We've talked a couple of times about places to go and things to do in Fairhaven. Exit 250, I believe, on the Interstate 5. One of the places in Fairhaven that we did not make mention of, when you want to get a voluminous and delicious scoop of ice cream, there's a place called Edaleen Dairy that is in Fairhaven, and I believe they are based in Linden. I think the mothership. I think you're right. Yeah, the mothership is on North Guide Meridian in Linden, but they have a Fairhaven place of business establishment. I often have to order a kids cone just because I don't want my spleen to revolt with the staff's gregarious, generous amount of ice cream that is handed to me when you order a small 1 scoop. But anyway, check out Edaleen Dairy in Fairhaven in the summertime. Nothing's better. Talk.
So in that same vein, in Fairhaven, there's also Serena's Gelato, which is, a crowd favorite. And I'm going to take a different angle on the ice cream vein. So really, there's 4 really big ice cream creameries here in and around Bellingham. There's Edaleen. There's Serena's Gelato, and I'm saying ice cream in general, folks. Yes, I know gelato is Italian ice cream, and it's got a different percentage of like milk fat and all this other stuff. You're welcome, honey. Anyway, you have chocolate necessities, and you have Mallard's ice cream. Now, at Mallard's and Chocolate Necessities and Serena, there is dairy-free options for those that have either the intolerance or, like my family, allergies. But the one that I want to showcase is actually Chocolate Necessities because, dear listener, if you are lactose intolerant or you have to have dairy-free in your life and you still like a really darn good chocolate ice cream, they are your hookup. They have probably the single best chocolate ice cream that, I can't remember what it's made out of. I think it's just chocolate and water and magic because I don't think they use any other like nut or dairy or any other substitution in there. Chocolate Necessities, if you're listening, you can reach out and correct me if I'm wrong. But my son's been able to have it ever since he's had his plethora of allergies in his life. So I just want to throw that out, especially in if you're coming through town and you're on dietary restrictions and you really want on these hot days, not today, folks, but the heat dome 2 months that we've had, and you really want a good chocolate ice cream, I can't recommend them enough.
I think when you go, if I may make a recommendation for Serena Gelato in Fairhaven, I think the best time to be able to visit it is Saturdays at 3 p.m. Because when you can do that, you get your little transistor radio, because I know all the kids have those little transistor radios with the C batteries and things like that, and they tune it to the 102 area, the 102.3 FM, and KMRE is a community powered station here that will broadcast our show on Saturdays while you're having the Serena Gelato.
Or Chris, if you're more of a youngin', you might just be tuning into us on KMRE.org or wherever you like to get your favorite podcasts of choice on these other transistor devices called phones, Chris.
Oh, that one. Yes, exactly. Fair enough. Well, Saturdays at 3, we're blessed to be able to have KMRE air our episode. I was able to listen to it as my beautiful wife and I were driving around doing errands this past weekend. And golly, it was just really weird to hear my voice. It always is, but to hear us on the radio is just one of those things that's like, hey, that's pretty cool.
Ooh, and also, if you're listening to Chris right now, and if you've heard in the last 3 episodes, our tonality has kind of shifted a little bit. Chris got his mic fixed.
Yeah.
So we're back to nice, creamy, crispy podcasting.
Now I just got to remember to charge the battery before we begin recording. Anyway, so got the technical difficulties undifficultied, and moving on. As you are enjoying that scoop of Le glace, as Napoleon said in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. When you want to get lost in a bookstore full of hidden gems and don't want to deal with a national chain, we've already made mention of the other awesome independent bookstore that is splat in the heart.
In the village, splat in the village of our fair community.
That's right. But I also want to make mention of another bookstore because guess what? Reading analog books is good for you. Eclipse Bookstore in Fairhaven just has rows and stacks of books and treasures to be found. And if there is if you are a hunter looking for something, the cool gift, I bet you could probably find a really cool book that means a lot to you, or that would mean a lot to someone on your gift list, whomever that might be. Eclipse Bookstore, it's over there next to, I believe it's Blessing's Spa.
I'll believe you on that one.
Yeah, I drive by it at high speeds, and so I kind of use my eyes to check that. But anyway, in Fairhaven, check out Eclipse Bookstore. Talk.
Also in the vein of Captain Get Out, I recently, so a listener reached out and actually asked hey, I am getting in, they're a listener of the show, and they're like, hey, I am getting into wanting to get out more, especially because we've been having great weather. But they had one caveat. They wanted to be out in the woods, but they were kind of like you. They didn't want to go on a hike.
Yeah, the gut busting, where my legs fall off hike.
Yeah. So in DMing back and forth, what they want to do is they want to work towards doing the Oyster Dome, but they're not there yet. And so they just asked, they want to be out in the woods and they want something that's a little bit shaded and stuff because it's been hot recently, but easygoing. And so I threw out the Simpson Reserve. So the Simpson Reserve, if you're heading out towards I guess Sudden Valley, I guess is the most landmark.
Head out on Lakeway.
Head out on Lakeway, and you're heading out towards Sudden Valley. And the Simpson Reserve is basically, I don't remember how many acres it is, but it is easygoing trail. You're out in the woods, and I call it, you go as far as you want to go. I would probably say it's probably the bath basin for forest bathing in Bellingham. That's a lot of bees. You're welcome, Captain Alliterate.
There you go.
If you've been listening to us and you're like, hey, you want to start hiking and stuff, and you want to feel more in the outdoors, you don't want to do the urban scene, that was what this listener was describing to me, then I would point you towards the Simpson Reserve. It's also a little bit more disconnected. So like if you want to have not the greatest connectivity, it's also a good way to disconnect as well.
Very good. To get out and about.
Yes.
This one is more getting in and getting, when you want to get pampered, when you want to pamper yourself. Yes, exactly. You're here in town and you got some family and you got a little bit of opportunity for the comforts in life. And I'll be talking a little bit more about comfort food coming up. But there is a really high quality spa in the heart of downtown Bellingham. Sandalwood Spa on Magnolia is right in the heart. Park blocks away. It's a quick jaunt over there. They have all kinds of the spa related amenities available. I personally, as I'm winking right now at the 50, I'm noticing that my skin isn't going to take care of itself, and so they have a guy's facial moisturizing thing, an express facial type thing, and I got some. In the past, I really was impressed with the thoroughness and the expertise that they have, as they were using the jackhammer to get rid of all the grit and impurities off of my skin, blackheads, you name it. Guys, take care of yourself. You want to be looking good for that special someone. Anyway, Sandalwood Spa is pretty cool in Magnolia Street. AJ.
One of the things I want to throw out that's kind of quintessential Bellingham, very subdued geek scene up here. And there's a comic shop that has moved locations several times. And right now, I think they're straight off of Holly in downtown Bellingham, right up from when we did our walk-in tour, as it were. And so it's called the Comics Place. And the thing about this place is it's bounced around town in my over decade that I've been in Bellingham. And it's been the shop where if you're a geek and you want to get immersed into back catalogs of comics, Chris, you and I have talked about there's two vinyl places, and that vinyl culture has a collector's collector's mentality and stuff. But it's also a connoisseur of like its content. This is original content that you really want to have because you want to consume it, not just collect it.
Absolutely.
And the comics, for me, like even as a kid, like that was my initial gateway drug into quote collecting. But it was because it's something every week or 2 weeks or a month I wanted the next issue. And the comics place during our lockdowns and stuff. I know that their physical store, which the new place off of Holly Street, is great. I mean, it's a large comic shop.
Oh, yeah.
With pinball tables in the back, bring quarters, especially if you have a 5-year-old that you want to keep occupied so you can go through back catalogs. Pro parenting tip from a geek right there. So, no, I recently I noticed that their doors are back open downtown
Awesome.
after we did our walking tour and stuff, and I've been meaning to weave them into the show. And so I wanted to throw that out, like, as we come back out, and for us geeks, if we don't support our local comic shops, like, they're already a dying breed as they are. And yes, I know there's digital comics, and yes, I've read them there and stuff, but and yes, I know there's also a growing trend of NFTs. But like, again, from this geek of the late 80s to early 90s that came into his own for comics, there's something about going through and going through those dusty volumes and that smell of old parchment of those comics and finding, a Spider-Man 231 or, whatever your comic verse was, and, reliving it, because, let's face it, there was only so many of those that are in print, and once they're gone, then you're only going to have the digital version. So I'm going to get off my geeky soapbox on that one. I'm
going to pick up that geeky soapbox and just make a pitch to those who may not be comic book aficionados or in the ilk, if you will. If you haven't gotten into graphic novels or comic books of this type, there's an old saying: the most important step in starting a journey is the first one. Go into the comics place, pick one that looks appealing to you, and support the local business and enjoy it. You never know where that might take you for other ideas, or talk to the staff. It's like, I like this, I've seen this, and then they can give you some recommendations for what they might have in stock.
They have a Village Books worthy digest of knowledge. If you go in there and just like, look, I've been watching the whole Marvel stuff and I'm really into Thor. Where do I start? They will point you in the direction. Like, I can't laud them enough. And like I said, just wanted to throw them out.
All right, very cool. Moving on to the pampering trend that I was on. There's a unique, when you want to have a unique relaxation experience, and there's a whole lot of great massage therapy joints around. There's a whole lot of spas around, but there's one unique one that I had an opportunity to enjoy with my wife. Still Life Massage and Float.
This is a new one.
It's been around for a while.
Oh, no, new one. I haven't heard you tell me the story.
Exactly. So my wife and I were blessed with an opportunity to indulge in one of their Still Life Massage and Floats. It's a great way for some therapy. You are in a room where you have, I'm gonna throw out an 80s or 70s or early 80s reference of Mork and Mindy. When Mork arrives from Ork on Earth, he arrives in a bit of an egg-shaped spaceship, if you will.
Greetings, Earthlings.
No. And but here's the thing. This is a enclosed container, and unfortunately, I'm not the expert on the description of it, but I felt myself. Now, I'm an eighth of a ton.
Yes.
And they have enough Epsom salts or enough, salts like you would have in a bathtub that I was unable to reach the bottom.
Oh, crazy. The salination was high.
Yes. And so I was able to just simply float for about 20 to 30 minutes. And it was very therapeutic. It was very relaxing. It was a little, I wasn't used to this experience, but after a while I kind of got into it, and it was like, all right, this is a great way to quiet my mind, quiet my body. There was nothing going on. You could have music playing, in the apparatus that it's not like a tanning bed. It is more like a little mini pool that has a cover over it that you can just float and let your thoughts wander. They're in the Bellwether area. And Still Life Massage and Float, go ahead and check them out. And it's a definite pampering relaxation experience.
Crazy.
Yes.
Okay, so going back to our multiple cultures here in Bellingham, one of the places that is like the quintessential locals meetup place for all things just it's 5 o'clock on a Friday and you have somebody coming into town that you haven't seen since the plague.
And they have a certain appreciation of a certain type of drink.
if you're like, let's say there were two guys that were podcasters out of Eugene, Oregon, that talk about watches of the 40 and 20 variety, and they came through town. You might want to meet them at some place like Elizabeth Station.
Yes.
Elizabeth Station, and Chris and I, we don't hit on a lot in the drinkeries, but this is one of those places where it's not just a drinkery, but a congregation place. So it's located in a pretty cool part of our town because you're adjacent to the bay, and you have like some old churches and stuff that are there. There's also Broadway Hall, which is a cool wedding venue. I've actually been to a wedding in that venue, and it's a reception at that hall, and it's really gorgeous. But what's cool about this vibe of town is you're kind of up and away from where the youths might be hitting the scene, like we've talked about in the previous episodes in the series.
You're kind of like in the rotator cuff away from the heart of Bellingham.
Yeah. And it's also bike friendly. Like if a lot of people from the Roosevelt area or the Fountain District and stuff, like a lot of people bike to this.
Yeah,
place.
it's a neighborhood. It's a neighborhood joint.
So,
but what I would say from Elizabeth Station, every time I go there, I encounter decision fatigue. There are so many selections to choose from, and oftentimes I'm like, okay, I'll take this one. And and of course the staff are very knowledgeable and they're very patient and cool for that. So Elizabeth Station is the one-stop shop for the whole variety of things.
Yes, which is why I say, like, if you have somebody in town and you want to meet up since the plague for a drink, it's the place to go because they will find something there. Very
cool. So we got a couple last ones to do. The one I want to hit on as far as, from a beer and cider selection, Elizabeth Station has your hookup.
Yeah.
Some of you who may be appreciating the vino, this is going to take you back into the heart of Bellingham, around Bay Street and around Champion Street. It's in a little bit of a triangle downhill type building. There's a place called Seifert and Jones Wine Merchants, and I've been in there a couple of occasions. Incredibly knowledgeable staff, very friendly. When you need to get the perfect bottle of wine, now if this is you're going to a dinner party, you are toasting something, or you want to be able to thank someone for a favor they did for you with a nice bottle of wine. They have not only an extensive amount of selections available, but they have gift cards available as well. So cool. Check out Seaford and Jones downtown for wine merchants for all the vino needs.
So for my last pick of this, and if you've been trying to get the vibe of this episode, Chris and I have been trying to find the more obscure places that we haven't really focused on in the last 6 episodes.
Yeah, but we still want to make mention. They aren't obscure; they're worldwide.
Oh, they are worldwide.
But we want to make mention because this is about Bellingham, and we are Bellingham. Hashtag we are Bellingham. Yeah, all right. Sorry, go ahead.
Whoa, wow, you're doing the whole social media stuff now. Oh,
no, stop it. Anyway, go
ahead. Okay, fine, Chris. All right, so I have a new place for us, okay? And it's off of Magnolia Street in downtown, and it's called 7 Spices Cafe. Now, I'll give everyone a nice, helpful hint. If you want a really, really good lunch where you're going to be hard pressed, even for you, Chris, with an eighth of a ton, you will have a hard time just eating one dish from them because they're a shawarma place. So you're going to get and order this pita wrapped thing of awesomeness, and I'm not going to say like pita pit type of thing or a wrapper type of thing. This is not anything like what we've had in Bellingham. You have an in-house made pita wrapped around a lamb and or a chicken type of rotisserie thing with in-house sauces and vegetables, and it is huge. It is mammoth, okay? And it is also tasty as all get out. Now, here is the fun date, either date weekend or if you have a kiddo and you want to have fun as a family, you're going to hit up 7 Spices Cafe for a lunch, walk a block, and go to the Ruckus Room, which, if you recall, quite some episodes back before we did our new little grand tour that we've been doing of coming back to Bellingham, we talked about the Ruckus Room, and that was our local arcade. Now that the pandemic is loosening restrictions, you still have to have a mask and sanitize often by using their arcade boxes, but you can also go to the Ruckus Room. And, what better place to sit down and get a big plate full of chow, which would be Chris Powell approved, and then you maybe work it off hitting the paddles on a pinball machine and blow about $5 in tokens. That's my combo to wrap up the show.
And you know what? I thoroughly appreciate that fork that they have. Thinking we should probably stick a fork in this show and actually in this series.
That wraps up this edition of the Bellingham Podcast. Thank you get so much for listening to us, rating us, reviewing us, wherever you like to get podcasts. If you're in the Bellingham area, you might be listening to us on Camry 102.3 FM.
They are community powered and they're streaming all over the darn place. It's KMRE. That's E as in excellent radio.org.
And on that note, hey, it's starting to clear up. I'm AJ Barsay.
And I'm Chris Powell. Thanks very much for joining us once again on the Bellingham Podcast. We are 3 away from the big one.
Yes, I know.
Exactly. Can't wait.